Hey, my name is Hunter and I am a plant collector, and I'm pretty sure that I live in a haunted apartment, so that's really cool for me. So I decided to do a series called Houseplants and Hauntings, where I'm going to be talking about a houseplant and then go into some haunting stories. Most of these stories I will be getting off of Reddit, but if you want to submit some of your own, I will leave my email in the description, and that way you can email them to me. I will also be leaving links from all of these stories in my description, so if you want to read them, you can, and that way they get proper credit. Anyway, let's get started. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the Raven ZZ plant, since it is kind of a shadow plant, and we're going to be talking about shadow people and our horror stories later. The ZZ plant, or the Zamioculcas zamiofolia, I think I said that right, is native to Eastern Africa and is typically found between South Kenya and the northern part of South Africa. ZZ plants are part of the Raceae family, so that means they're related to like philodendron and monstera and a lot of common house plants. Raven ZZ in particular is a cultivar that has been patented by its discoverer. This person has granted Costa Farms exclusive rights in North America. If you would like a video on plants and patents and how that works, let me know in the comments. I think it would be an interesting topic, but that's just me. I need your opinion. So if you think that sounds like something you would watch, give me a little planted pot in the comments, just a little planted pot emoji. Anyway, more about the ZZ plant. According to Costa Farms, the Raven ZZ was discovered in Asia in 2015. When I read this, it kind of confused me because I feel like saying it was discovered in Asia is kind of vague. Asia is a pretty big continent. And secondly, I found that it was native to Eastern Africa. So I'm not sure if it was discovered in Asia, as in like it was found in the wild, or if it was cultivated in a greenhouse to become the Raven ZZ with its extra dark foliage. If you know that answer, actually, that'd be really cool for you to share in the comments. All right, so that is some fun facts about the Raven ZZ. You can see mine is pushing out a new shoot, and they come in green at first, but as they start to mature, they turn into the black leaves. But anyway, it's time for some horror stories. So like I mentioned, episode 1 of Houseplants and Hauntings is about shadow people. The first story is going to be called Shadow Person Room Invasion as a Child. I'm not sure if this qualifies, as I was very young at the time and had an active imagination, but I will recount my version of events as best as I can. I was maybe 5 when I first noticed it. I lived in a house on a normal street and lived with my brother and parents. I had my own room. Full disclosure, I was always afraid of ghosts at that age, and my mom just said it was just because I had a wild imagination. This one night I was put to bed as normal and said goodnight to my brother, who went to his own room. I fell asleep. I don't remember waking up, but the house was quiet and I think everyone had went to bed, so it was very late. I just lay there looking at the window. My eyes were open so long that my eyes had now adjusted to the dark and the room was in gray focus. You know what I mean? When you start getting some night vision and the blacks turn gray. Anyway, I rolled over towards the door, and the first thing my eyes were drawn to was something on the floor. Laying across the foot of the closed door, I thought it was my brother at first, but staring I could see that it was a shadow. Strange how black it was, as I had my night vision, and nothing else in the room was so black and shadowy. I thought I would stare a little longer to see if it would come into focus, but it didn't. I can't say how long I stared, but the shadow never made shape or came into focus. Maybe just a jumper or something. I rolled back over and went back to sleep, thinking nothing more of it, and woke up the next morning as normal. I remember looking at the door in the morning light and seeing nothing there. Figures was just my wild imagination playing tricks, like Mom says. The next night I made sure when I went to bed that nothing was across the door, and I went to sleep. I recount waking up only once that night and looking at the door, only to see nothing. Even without staring and getting night vision, I could see there was nothing there. Must have been seeing things the night before. That's all it was. Maybe a week or so later, I started to wake up and check on the door to see if the shadow was back, and sure enough, it wasn't. Fine. But soon after, I started to feel uneasy in bed at night and kept looking at the door on and off during my nights. I thought for sure there was something there, and I just couldn't see it. Staring at the place the shadow should be gave me goosebumps. One night, I remember thinking, or maybe I said it out loud at the door, "You can show yourself." Nothing happened as I stared, so I rolled back to face the window to go back to sleep. One last look, I thought, and gingerly looked back at the door. The thing was there, lying across the foot of the door as before, just black, a shadow. But not just a shadow, it had some blurred outline shape, almost as if someone sleeping with their knees up to their chest. It felt as though just staring at it, I was being sucked into it, sort of like when a camera does a dolly zoom. I couldn't say what it was, only knew it was not friendly. It was cold, it was black, it was malevolent. I remember screaming so loud that my mom came bursting in her nightdress and turning on the light. She held me as I tried to tell her what I had seen through sobs, and she told me it was just my wild imagination. I was terrified so much that I had to go to sleep beside my brother the rest of the night. Roll on, maybe a week, maybe a month, I don't know. The thing started to appear more and more, almost consistently, terrifying me so much, always pulling me in, like the room had been swung up on its side and gravity was pulling me hard towards it. This horrible shadow thing, this shadow person. It got to the point that it was there more often than it wasn't. I screamed most nights and my mom knew it was because of the shadow person again, without asking. The next night, my mom insisted my brother slept in beside me so I wouldn't be afraid. He woke up at me shouting at the door to go away. I remember this part so well. He told me, "Shut up," and stopping before he could finish, grabbed my arm so hard I felt his nails digging in it. He just started screaming, looking at the door. He could see the thing too. He kicked and screamed so much that the covers came off and my mom burst in and turned the lights on to see us both cuddling and crying. Eventually, we both slept in my brother's room, and I would only go into my own room during the day. As adults, we have only spoken about it once, and he said that he thinks about it often and had to get a cat because he was scared to be alone. I'll always remember that feeling of being sucked in to the shadow as it lay there, with its knees to its chest, never taking full shape. It never followed me again after we moved. I sometimes wonder if it's still there. So our next story is going to be a little bit shorter, but still just as creepy. This one's called Multiple Shadow People. I used to work the night shift at a youth shelter in 2020, and there was always strange paranormal activity that I could never debunk. In the office, there is a clear plastic glass type window that you can see into another room that was additionally built onto an old house built in the 70s. My coworker and I had been hearing strange noises all night long. We assumed it was the children playing tricks on us. However, we did bed checks every 15 minutes throughout the night, and there are cameras everywhere in the house besides the bedroom, so we would be able to tell if a child walked out of their room. Plus, half of them are medicated and take sleeping meds, so they are usually passed out by 11. At midnight, the clapping started. I assumed it was the kids. I did bed checks and all the kids are asleep in the room. Then we hear a little voice from the hallway say, "Here, kitty, kitty." There was a shelter therapy cat. And we look at the cameras and there was no one in the hallway. Around 2 a.m., I'm sitting in the office as my other coworker is doing checks, and I hear slight tapping on the window from outside the house. If the kids went outside, the alarm would go off, so I knew it couldn't be the kids. I decided to close the blinds after that. At about 3:45 a.m. is when we started to see shadows. Some looked extremely tall, like 7 feet, and some short. They were zooming around the playroom at crazy fast speeds. I looked back at my coworker and she slid down from her chair onto the floor. I asked if she was seeing what I was seeing because she looked pretty scared and she shook her head yes. I decided to turn on all the lights in the house and turn on the TVs in the playroom and living room. After that, I did bed checks and went back to the office. At 4:30 a.m., we were watching Netflix on the computer, and right next to the computer is a monitor that has the camera display, and we saw a little boy on the monitor. He was in the living room, crouched down behind the couch with oddly long hands on his knees. He had this very strange white-yellow glow to him. He looked to be the age of 5 or 6. He looked directly into the camera with yellow glowing eyes and disappeared. I looked back at my coworker and asked if she is seeing what I'm seeing again, and she said yes. We would try to change the subject and not bring attention to it, so maybe it would go away. After that, it was fine. That was the last activity of the night. I stopped working there a couple months after that because it would stress me out dealing with the unexplained activity. Alright, so we're on to our final story, and this one is called Hunting Bloodlines. Ever since I was a kid, my dad and my grandfather would talk to me about shadow people and claim that I would meet him one day. As a kid, I was scared, but when I became as a teen, I thought they were crazy. One night when I was maybe 17, I had a dream, but it felt so real. My room wasn't changed one bit, and it just felt so real. My bed sheets were the same color, and even the smell of my home remained the same. When I woke up, I heard several people whispering from my doorway, and I turned around and looked. Mind you, I was not sleep paralyzed. I saw a tall man shrouded in complete blackness. He was tall as the doorway, and he just stood there and watched me. The strange thing is that I didn't feel fear. I myself thought I was dreaming, so I rolled over and tried going back to sleep. I heard the same whispers and could feel his gaze, but nothing happened, and I ended up falling asleep. Now I live in another state and think about it sometimes. Mostly only the males see him. Even my own little cousin complained that there was a scary man in his room. Another cousin, who is a female, said she saw him too and explained it exactly the same as my situation. Can anybody please give me something to research or just help me understand what this is? So those were pretty spooky. I have not personally ever seen a shadow person to my knowledge. I have definitely felt and seen things, like I said, in this apartment. And if you would like details, please let me know, because I have several stories that's happened in this here apartment, and I've only lived here for not even 3 years yet. Anyway, I do want to say thank you for watching this. If you found it interesting at all, or if you know someone who would like to watch it, please share it with them, give it a thumbs up. That really helps me grow this channel. I'm excited to do more of these. I think the next topic is going to be ghosts, which is kind of vague, but we're going to go with it. Again, if you have some horror stories that you would like to share with me, I will leave my email in the description, and you can email them to me, and I will possibly share them in some more episodes of Houseplants and Hauntings.